All ready back there, Ashley? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Public meeting, West Grey Committee. And first thing I'm going to ask is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof from any of the members? Seeing none. I will say that Deputy Mayor Hutchison is online with us today. He may be attending to some personal issues, so hopefully he'll be able to stay on, but if he does go off, it's already noted. Okay. Quick thing. Ashley, do you want to give any comments on how anybody can, that if somebody is online and can participate?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Eccles, at any point, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the ID for this meeting, which is 891-5626-2480. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance, please send a chat message to West Grey Communications and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, our first public meeting is dealing with zoning ZA 02-2025 504021 461 Durham Road East. I have some preliminary announcements to make. I'd like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback will be considered in the decision of the West Grey Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into this decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of a public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. Okay. Madam Deputy Clerk, you have some perfunctory comments as well too, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located at the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services Clerk.
Thank you, Michelle. And I'm going to ask Mr. Smith, Planning Manager, for an overview, please. David.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council files at A02-2025 579-575 Ontario Limited, operating as Can-Do Homes. I will ask Ashley if you could please bring up page 11 of 54 of the PDF on the screen and online, please. On the screen in the council chambers and online is Schedule A to the a draft of the Schedule A for the bylaw, showing on the right-hand side of the screen an area to be zoned as R2 medium density residential, with the bottom portion of it to be within a different zone, and then the other lands to the west remaining as its current zoning on the property. Purpose of the application is to zone the lands to satisfy a condition of two provisional consents that permit the severance of two new lots. Those provisional consents were heard by the West Gray Committee of Adjustment earlier this month and given approval. One of the conditions of both consents was the approval of a zoning bylaw amendment, which is being heard by West Gray Council this afternoon. The application would rezone the lands from R1B low density residential and flood line with regulation limit to R2 medium density residential and a slight modification to the flood line with regulation limit. The lands are designated primary settlement area in the County of Gray official plan with significant woodlands constraint feature on the far south end of the lot, basically where that striped area is at the bottom end is where we begin significant woodlands in that relative area. The lands are designated residential with a regulated area overlay on Schedule A, plus a significant woodlands constraint on Appendix A of the West Gray official plan. We have two official plans that are come into play on this particular application. Gray County Planning Ecologists is of the opinion that an environmental impact assessment is not required for the application. The regulatory area zoning overlay is to be modified based on mapping provided by the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Previous reports noted in your report to council and available online is the B05 and B06 2025, which are the two provisional consents for this property also. We circulated the application to various agencies, including the West Gray Public Works, West Gray Building, and West Gray Fire. In general, Public Works and Fire have no concerns, and the Building Department has no concerns, provided the applicant complies with Article 914.6.1 of the Building Code. Any building should be located on, or the building site graded so that water will not accumulate at or near the building and will not adversely affect native adjacent properties. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, the regulatory flood limit does not impact the property. There are no hazard features affecting the property. The slope is stable at this location. It is recommended that both Gray County OP and the zoning bylaw mapping be updated to better reflect the SVCA mapping. SVCA staff are of the opinion that the application is acceptable. From the County of Gray, County ecologist is again is the opinion an environmental impact study or assessment can be waived and there's no planning concerns. Comments, we have received comments from the public. Some of these comments are in relationship to the consent files, provisional consents, as I just mentioned, B05 and B06, but they also have the same kind of impact or applicability, I think, to the zoning. As I said, there are multiple written comments received. Concerns have been raised regarding light, privacy and views, excess water runoff, increased traffic and potential on-street parking, overwhelming of local infrastructure, loss of trees, and questioning the necessity of more housing, in particular semi-detached housing in a detached residential area. We've also received two letters yesterday, Monday, April 14th, in regards to the applications, very similar to the comments I've read already in terms of excess water, in particular traffic infrastructure in that regard. And so I won't read them out, but if council would wish, we can go through them in detail. Our planning response to the comments that have been received so far. Number one, there is no right to the preservation of a view in Ontario. Any new structures are expected to meet the setback and height regulations of the zoning bylaw, unless a zoning bylaw amendment for height or a minor variance is submitted, at which time the increase in height would be reviewed under those provisions. But we don't protect any views in Ontario, no matter if you have a view out over Lake Huron or whether or not you have a view out over the Saugeen River. They are not protected. Water runoff or stormwater, I will talk a little bit more further in this report. And as I did mention, the building department did mention that in terms of Ontario Building Code, lot grading is something that's taken into consideration at the time of building permit application. Increased traffic and parking, I'll also talk about a little bit further. Impact on availability of water and sewer services. We have sufficient municipal water and sewer services in this part of town, and overall the Durham water system and sewer system can accommodate flows both for water and for sewage. Tree removal on the property is a property owner right. In this particular case, the County of Gray Forest Management Bylaw does not apply to the property, so the removal of trees is well within their rights. The ability of existing housing and or vacant lots in Durham does not figure into the review of an application. We don't go and count to say that we have 15 semi-detached and therefore 16th semi-detached is not required. That is not part of a planning review and not part of the Planning Act. Reviewed the application versus the provincial planning statement 2024. As of October 20th, 2024, the new provincial planning statement applies to all decisions in respect to the exercise of any authority that affects the planning matter. Reviewed sections 2.2 housing, 2.3 settlement areas, 3.6 sewage, water, and stormwater, section 4. Policy 4.1 natural heritage, and policy 5.2 natural hazard. Policy 2.2 housing. The policy requires planning authorities to provide an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities, permitting and facilitating all housing options, all types of residential intensification, development and introduction of new housing options within previously developed areas, and promoting densities for new housing which effectively use land, resources, infrastructure. Housing options means a range of housing options such as but not limited to single detached, semi-detached, row houses, townhouses, stacked townhouses, etc. Policy 2.3 settlement areas. The policy requires planning authorities to support general intensification and redevelopment to support the achievement of complete communities, including by planning for a range and mix of housing options. The proposed lots are within an area designated for residential uses. The proposed lots would expand the variety of housing options available within a previously developed area and represents intensification utilizing existing municipal services. Policy 3.6, sewage, water, and stormwater. Again, municipal water and sewer is available at the lot, and there's sufficient capacity in the Durham system for both sewer and water. Lot grading and stormwater management plan provided indicates the front yards would be graded towards Durham Street East. The interior side lot would be graded into a swale with water directed to the rear with stormwater infiltration in the rear yard. Policy 4.1, natural heritage. This particular case, again, with the significant woodlands as the natural heritage, the County of Grey Planning Ecologist's opinion an environmental impact study or assessment was not required for the development considering its small scale. Policy 5.2, natural hazards. The regulatory flood limit does not impact the property. There are no hazard features on the property overall. The slope is determined to be stable in this particular location. The Saugeen Valley has no concerns with the application overall. In this particular area, Durham Street East is of adequate construction to handle the additional residential units. There's currently no sidewalk, however, at this end of Durham Street, but it is a 60-kilometer-an-hour zone. Council and West Grey Council has looked at the improvements to Durham Street, and that would be possibly coming forward in the future years. But at this time, as I mentioned, no sidewalk, but it is a 60-kilometer-an-hour zone, and the street is certainly wide enough, and the aprons and graveled areas on the side of the roadway is adequate for walking this time. Overall, I am of the opinion that the proposed zoning is consistent with the provincial policy statement, planning statement. We reviewed the application versus the Grey County official plan. Again, the lands are designated as the primary settlement area in the Grey County official plan. There is a significant woodland constraint on the rear part of the properties. Overall, section 3.5 of the Grey official plan provides policy direction on development of primary settlement areas and says that there with consideration to be given to intensification where there's full municipal services. Section 356 supports intensification and requires new construction to be built and the physical environment to be taken into consideration during construction and when under review. In this particular case, the official plan does suggest or recommend that development be compatible with surrounding land uses. Compatible is defined within the Grey County official plan, which means that the development or redevelopment of uses which may not necessarily be the same as or similar to existing development, but can coexist with the surrounding area with limited impacts. The semi-detached units would provide an alternative housing option to purchasers and supports intensification direction of the Grey official plan. Water and sanitary services can be provided. And again, the log grading plan overall is proposed as reasonable, but will require the developer to implement it and future owners to maintain various measures to not adversely impact or affect neighboring properties. The requirement in the act is adversely impact, not no impact whatsoever. And that is the test that is applied to any application where we have properties that require grading and the water movement may change around overall. There will be increased traffic on Durham Street East, a local roadway. There already are existing multiple driveways that access Durham Street Road East. This section of roadway, again, is posted at 60 kilometers an hour. The additional 2 units are not expected to cause any transportation issues. The semi-detached units as proposed will meet all of the regulations, front, rear, side yard of the R2 medium density residential zone. Overall, it is my opinion that the proposed zoning amendment permitting semi-detached units would be compatible with the surrounding area. It's noted that section 358, the Gray official plan goes on to state that the county does not support residential zones within the primary settlement area, which allow only for single detached dwellings as the only residential use in a zone. In addition to single detached dwellings, municipal zoning bylaws shall permit additional residential units and other forms of housing such as semi-detached. Section 7.2 talks about natural hazards, and as I mentioned, Saugus Valley has no issues. And section 7.4 talks about significant woodlands. And again, Grey County Planning Ecologist is the opinion that EIS is not required. Overall, it is my opinion that the zoning amendment maintains the general intent of the County of Grey official plan. The West Grey official plan, the lands are designated residential with a regulated area in our own official plan. Goals of the West Grey official plan include the provisions of an ample supply of affordable and desirable residential dwelling types and densities. Policy C2226 promotes development through infilling and intensification. And Part D of the West Grey official plan provides detailed land use policies for residential, including the provision of housing which is affordable to low and moderate income housing by permitting and encouraging all forms of housing required to meet the social health and well-being requirements of current and future residents. Review the application versus 2416 low-density residential policies. The municipality considers detached dwellings, semi-detached dwellings, and duplex dwellings to be low-density residential. Overall, the density of this particular with the two semi-detached would meet the requirements of that policy. Part E12 of the West Grey official plan talks about natural heritage and natural hazards overall. And again, as I mentioned with our previous review, that the application does meet those requirements. It is my opinion that the zoning does maintain the intent and general purpose of the West Grey official plan. The municipality West Grey zoning bylaw 37-206, which is available on the West Grey website to all users, to all people anywhere in the world, obviously. Available under the planning and invest section of the website together with our application forms. Currently, again, the lands are zoned R1B. The R1B zone does not permit the semi-detached dwelling. The application proposes a change to the R2 medium density residential. There are no requests to amend or reduce any of the R2 zone regulations as they apply to a semi-detached dwelling. As shown in the report and available online with the report is a table showing the R2 medium density requirements overall and how this property and the proposed building on it at this particular time meets all the regulations overall. I am the opinion that the zoning amendment maintains the general intent and purpose of the West Grey zoning bylaw and represents good planning, and therefore recommend that the West Grey Council consider passage of the zoning bylaw amendment as proposed. Thank you.
So that's why I haven't got it turned on. Is there anybody from the applicant? Seeing any? Comments from the public? And before I ask anybody that is attending in person, I'm going to ask Ashley, is there anybody online that has any comments? Anybody in the audience publicly today? If you could use the podium. I've got a coin. Do you want me to flip a coin for you, Derek? Lucy? Okay. Well, that's why it's a coin. Okay. If you could.
Hello, my name is Derek Goodchild. I live at 473 Durham Road East.
Thank
A couple comments is the first meeting about the B06, B05, 2025, which is a part of this. There were some clerical errors. I contacted a clerk yesterday and asked if they were revised and fixed, and they were not. So I'm just curious to know if and when they will be revised and fixed on the clerical errors of the two applications, B05, B06, 2025.
I'm going to look to staff.
There was a check mark that wasn't happening, and the application had examples instead of actual subject. Anyone? I can bring them to your attention if you'd like. Got them right here.
Go ahead. Okay. Dave?
The applications were deemed complete by the planning department, which is why they were processed and brought forward to public meeting. There are sections of applications which are not applicable at times, which means you don't fill them in. So there are missing, some people consider them to be missing, but there were no missing sections in the application forms that had a material impact on our ability to bring forward the application as a whole. I will say that we receive any number of applications per year, zoning, minor variances, consents, which council and committee members are familiar with, of which not every single box is filled in correctly. And the reason why is that there's a vast variety of knowledge bases and so on and so forth of our ratepayers out there. And we don't send it back to them to fill in boxes where the box that wasn't filled in wasn't critical to an understanding of the application. In this particular case, where I did take a look at the zoning, and you can take a look, so you're obviously yourselves at some point, but there, that application form that we use covers off official plan amendments, zoning amendments, and the removal of an H holding. And if a section is not applicable, such as you're only applying for a zoning amendment, you would not fill out other sections of an application. Again, in our consideration, the applications were sufficiently filled out in order to process them, which is why we brought it forward for public meeting. Thank you.
Page 3 of the 8 pages for the zoning amendment. Municipal bylaw application for zoning bylaw. Page 3. Number 7, I'll read to you. Provide the reason for zoning bylaw amendment. What is the proposed use for the subject lands? And the answer is this. Example, permit an automobile repair shop, automobile spray paint booth, and automobile body shop. Permit the development of a semi-detached residential dwelling. Okay. Number 8, same page. I stated this at the meeting last, and this is a public record. Provide the reason for the official plan amendment. What is the proposed use for the subject lands? It states, example, designate the subject lands to allow for a commercial use being an automobile repair shop, automobile spray booth, and automobile body shop. And underneath that, it states, what area does this amendment cover? This is where I had the problem. There are 2 boxes to check. Neither one are there. Entire lot or partial lot. This is very important in this bylaw amendments. Neither are checked. And underneath it says, if an official plan amendment applies only to a portion of land of the lot, then your drawing must include dimensions of the area. Unfortunately, we still don't have an answer here. And the example for the zoning amendment is an example. I don't really understand how this is making it through at this point. BO5 2025, public record. Okay. Number 7, creation of a new lot. The dimension is 27 point, sorry to my glasses, 91 meters. Okay. And the lot dimension is 9.466. So with a calculator, I divided it by 2, 27.91, and it equals 9.036. So the numbers aren't right. Unfortunately, I was told to always dot my T's and cross my I's. Correct? Here we go again. Creation of new lot, which is 17.644 meters. And we divide that by 2, which is a severed lot, equals 8.82, not the 9.466. Almost a full meter is 3.3 feet. This is a huge problem, I believe. I don't understand how we're even at this point if this is not correct. Moving forward, I have looked at your public meeting notes and I've come across a few things that concern me as I have the lot on the southern side of this property, the entire lot, actually. I have 6 acres in town and this is part of my sanctuary. So the ecologist of County of Grey is saying that there is no impact study to be waived for this. And then I'll go to appendix number, the last page, which is, I believe, 16 of 52 for today's notes. And I was walking my property today, and if you look at the legend, it shows hazardous land. And the hazardous land is actually within probably 30 inches of this property. So the slope is very unstable at the back of this property. It was infilled. That means they pushed dirt into it, did not compact it at the back. They've done nothing to stop the erosion that's happening on a daily basis with the snow, the rain, and the wind. Without any trees on the property, it's adding to erosion much quicker, which is actually adding more items to my hazardous land. I've done a small survey on my own, and I found that the land is on a slope of between, I'll say 10 to 12 degrees, which is a moderate slope, not steep, which is above 15%. So the problem is that with the slope of the land directly south of the roadway, all the way to my property is downhill. I look at your grading plan and it shows the water course from the driveways at the top of the road, which is downhill. If you want to have it sloping to the road, you're going to have to build up the entire front of that property by about 4 feet. So the water runs from the driveways and around the houses and to the back of the house. We know it runs downhill, and obviously it's on my property. So I have a problem with the County of Grey not coming out to even look at the property. I haven't seen anybody on my game cams back there that have actually walked the property. I invite anybody in this room, council, to come and walk my property again to see the impact of there nothing being on this land and the amount of swampland that is behind this property alone. I do have wildlife. There was a fawn born there last year. There was a deer living in there all winter. Unfortunately, it's swampy there and it's actually having trouble walking through the mud. So the excessive runoff of this property and the subdivision that they're proposed minor subdivision of the semi-detached house, the hard surface runoff water again is running on my property. I had a meeting supposed with Mr. Tremble after the April 1st. We spoke outside. He said he would meet me on the Wednesday, which was the next day, and I haven't heard from him since. So unfortunately, he did put up a silt fence, which was about 45 to 50 feet from the back of his property onto mine, which is there now implemented. But unfortunately, the main problem is the very back of the property, which is, again, a 15-foot drop from the road. Just going through my notes. So the intensification of the redevelopment in this area for a subdivision, for a semi-detached house on our lovely street of Durham Road East, not to correct you, but it is 50 kilometers an hour because there are pedestrians, new mothers, dog walkers, children, families walking on this road that has no sidewalks to walk on. So walking on that road already is hazardous. On our south side, there is a painted line with white stripes that people try and walk. But unfortunately, as we know, living in the country, you always walk against traffic, so you know if you're going to get hit or not. So your back will always be towards somebody if we stay on the one side that is, you're calling a proposed sidewalk, which is, I believe, proposed for the north side. So the sewage and the water, stormwater at the municipal service level. The house that I am in, when we purchased it, we missed something and we actually had to pay off $3,200 worth of to the municipality for sewer and water because we were told by our friends who we bought the property that they had to either endure a fine every month if they didn't if they didn't take away from their septic, which was a pump out, to hook up to the sewers, which is now on the north side of the street. That cost them $10,000. Are we going to get $30 influx to our municipality for 3 houses to be hooked up to that sewer? I would like to see that because it was happened to us also. It's not fair if someone else gets just the way of the land. So again, sorry, stormwater. I do not agree with the stormwater runoff. It is negative, very loose soil on the very back side of this property that backs onto us. Unfortunately, it is our natural heritage because it's our home. And that is kind of, I don't believe that this is negative. And you cannot judge anything from a topographical satellite picture. So the slope is unstable and is unhealthy for the lands. Unfortunately, there is a water course and a culvert within 150 meters of this house. It is actually, doing the math, it is 70 feet or less from the culvert to the west. So we have to worry about these hazardous lands because it is now a regulatory flood limit. The culvert actually empties on my property, and we have a river on our property from the culvert on the north side. All the water on the south side of our 6 acres flows through the properties and onto our land. Unfortunately, our land should be protected by the municipality as we back onto conservation, which again backs onto the Saugeen River. So we're looking to add more houses to this area. Unfortunately, and fortunately, there are 520 new homes going across the road from us. There is going to be a strip of, I believe, 60 houses that are, I think it's 15 feet wide by 100 feet deep townhouses, which could obviously suffice for for our development plan, which is enough, I think. We're not even there yet, but we're there. So the neighboring properties, someone else is not here, but her property is affected also from the water runoff, as it shows from the other side. Give me 1 second. I was at your website, which is brand new, looks great. Unfortunately, I cannot find the bylaw 37-2006. Could you let me know what that is? I couldn't find it on your website. It says under construction. I couldn't find it. I checked this morning. Anyone have definition? Bylaw 37-20-2006?
37-2006 is available on the West Gray website. You're welcome to see people at the front counter, and they'll help direct you to where you should be looking. I'm sorry, but we're not going to take you to the website at the moment. We're telling council it's available on the website.
With moving from R1B to an R2 medium density residential on this street for one home, for one lot, the mayor stated in the last meeting that it is costly to rezone an area. It's costing this man, I don't know how much money. It's saying it's $3,600 to rezone this one lot. But he's going to go from R1 to R1B, which is 465 meters squared, to 275 meters squared, which is almost half of what it should be on our street. Again, the average lot size on the north side, straight across the street, will go 8 houses either way. The lot frontage is 88 feet. Southern side between Kincardine and Arthur Street, again, 88 feet wide average. Now we're moving to a couple 30-footers. I don't understand why we're in such drastic moves to make one lot stick out from the rest of the properties. I have 124, there's 108 across the road, there's 95 across the road, there's 98, there's 98, there's 98. All the houses on the street, the ones across the road are newer houses, and they actually are above the R1B, which is actually quite nice because it gives us a great country feel. Schedule A on the draft, you spoke about this, to be zoned with regulation overlay. Can you expand on this? This is the property that affected my property, the southern bit.
A regulatory overlay is provided by the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. It provides a notice to property owners of the interest of the Conservation Authority through their regulation that an area may be or is subject to regulatory approval.
So I was there today. This is my property right here with the trees on it. I own all of this. 3 more this side, 2 more this side, then our property. If you can see this, there's all trees along this line. There's within 5 feet of this back line is a slope higher than 6 feet. I stand on my property and I look right into dirt. It is all very loose soil, which again is infill, which is soil pushed into a property, not compacted, not backfill against a wall. It is just pushed in there and very loose. So there's an erosion there. There are 4 along this, there are 4 pipes coming out of this property that is draining water. And I believe the septic system on this side of the property is draining on my property also. On rainy days, I do smell human excrement on this side. So I'm looking for new drawings and grading of this property. I need to know what's going to happen and affect my property, which again affects the Saugeen Conservation. We are in a watercourse area. It is within 150 meters of a culvert and a ditch. The river that runs through my property that comes from the culvert on the north side of the street is within roughly 120 feet of this property. We need to protect this land. We need to protect our river because we all know, again, what flows downhill. So I need some drawings for the hard surface runoff. I want to see French drains. I want to see silt maps. I need to see retaining walls with footings, drawings, all engineered because it is affecting me and also the community because the community swims in that river. And I don't want even the septic on that land to be flowing downhill. Somebody in the meeting on April 1st mentioned a duplex. I don't remember who it was, but I do know that the setback of being 1.2 meters from the property line means this house will be a bungalow and nothing taller. So if it's changing and it's going to be a duplex, semi-detached house with 2 duplexes in each, I think that we as a community should be well known of this and not told. So we need to know what the structure of this property is for and its intents purposes. I believe that's enough for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. I'm going to say, I believe that maybe look towards our chief building official, but every house up there on Durham Road East is connected to the water and sewer. That would have been, there was a program put in place when the water and sewer was run east quite a number of years ago. To answer that one question, when you purchase the property, regulations that everybody must hook up, and at the cost, I think the average was at the time, maybe I'm looking towards Councillor Hutchison, who also lives on that road, was somewhere in the $7,500. And that was put on a basically a on-interest loan program from the municipality. If the individual homeowners, property owners could not pay that, it was put over a 10-year period with an annual payment. And on you purchasing that, I take it that the amount hadn't been paid. And that, really has nothing to do. At that point, when those were hooked up, as far as we know, as far as I know, there is still one private system there, but is checked. It was put in just before the system was municipal system was there. And it's on a very regulated that it is still continuing to work. The individual did have to pay the frontage and whatnot, the $7,500 as everybody else. I'm not aware every other system when they hooked up was disconnected and removed. I'm surprised that that there seems to be still a system that you proclaimed is flowing out. Any of the other questions? I don't know whether there's any response, Carl, that you have. I think maybe on the building part, some of the things about erosion would be addressed from the building perspective. Carl?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yeah, any new construction or these new lots would require connection to sanitary and water. there is a connection fee that these property owners would have to pay. Currently under fees and charges bylaw, that charge is $3,000 for water and an additional 3,000 for sanitary. So they will pay that fee. Yeah, and all erosion control will be required. We require engineered grading drawings for every lot under half an acre in the municipality as part of our building bylaw. It's required to be submitted as part of the building permit application. And then the engineer will be required to attend the property after the grading is completed to confirm that it was built in accordance with the original drawing.
Anyone else? Yes. Yep. Sorry, Lucy. Woo. If we could ask you to give your name and
Lucy,
residence.
469 Durham Road East.
Thank you.
I want to just bring a point to Derek's presentation. I don't want to repeat it, but it doesn't give me much confidence in the approval of this project when there are so many flaws in it, as was the first one as well. We spoke on April 1st. It's like putting a kid in a candy store and saying, take inventory. When you, with all due respect, David, he can't be presenting benefits to what he's doing if it's flawed and there's no one, council or whoever, correcting, making sure that what he's presenting is on the up and up. So without Derek here, we wouldn't see the realities about that application. So I don't know why it's being passed either. So a couple of things I want to mention. The people that were presented letters last time weren't interested in presenting letters again. Seems we're allowed to be heard, but we're not considered. Our viewpoints, our comments, our work on presenting the proof, if you will, the solid reasoning for this not going through is never given any credence. So we've dismissed any letters to anybody today. We would prefer to be heard, and I don't know what it's going to take to get heard, and our viewpoints and our realities actually given credence. How do we do that? This plan is obviously being pushed through for some reason. We'd like to know why. What is it that makes it so important to be approved? We want to know why. What is it? Nobody has an answer. To our mayor, there's an oath that mayor and council has, and I don't know if you've read it today or if you read it daily. But in part, it's speaks of the support to serve the people in the communities, take actions that benefit their communities more efficiently. How does putting this approval on this job application work in that way for us? What is the benefit for us? We'd like to know. And Mr. Mayor, recent videos on tourism for Durham. You say over and over again about 8 or 9 times anyway, referring to Durham as being nestled in nature. Please enlighten me. How does this project, the change of the zone, which will affect all of us, not just on this road, how does this come into play with that thinking? Because covering up nature, throwing nature in a hole, burying it with pavement, how does that feel warm and nestled in nature? I'd like to know.
It's nestled in nature is that there's a lot of individuals that want to come and live in this community, yourself being one of them, a few other ones from that area. And if we continue to let sprawl happen and not fill in what we already have, then you are going to be taking that out of nature.
We are going into sprawl by,
This is this is going to be, the proposal is on a lot that is created. I guess what you're suggesting is that we remove all houses
no, I never said that.
and not build any place. So this is a lot that's being basically, in my mind, being infilled. That's from my opinion.
Mm.
It's an infilling lot and it's not destroying any nature that,
Well, they've already
is
done that.
natural.
But you're changing the zoning, which brings it from, what's the word? Density, one density to an increased density. How is that? And then you've got 800 homes across the road on the north side. How is that not burying nature? And they, not to mention the amusement park that is now referred to as Durham Conservation is now an amusement park. They've taken out trees in order to bring people into nature. The sanity just is not there. I don't get it.
I guess we have a different vision of what nature is and how nature can be.
So how does the community who's brought all these proposals, how do we get heard?
Just as you're doing right now.
They're
And
dismissed
it's
without
to
even
be-
regard.
What is not is we're taking that into consideration.
In a
But-
nanosecond, you
but-
made approval last time.
There's two sides to every argument. And what you're indicating is that everything that you have said shall be taken, as gospel, as professional. And apparently, I heard the last time that one individual that was at that microphone said, "This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm a very much a newbie on absolutely this." So I guess what I'm looking at is there's a lot of professional opinion that says that this would be good planning, good development in our residential, in our urban centers. So I've got to weigh one with the other.
It seems that you're following
Last-
the rule of Ontario.
Yes,
Yeah.
following the rules of Ontario, because that is a large area of the regulations that we have to, adhere to.
None of it includes the community.
It always includes.
Yeah, but not necessarily, you're building houses. Who's moving in there? Nobody from Durham. Donnie, who shovels snow, ain't moving into that big house in the community north of us. Who's it for? It's for people from Brampton, Burlington, and wherever.
Take a look across the road and I can name at least a half a dozen people that have sold or moved from other areas in the town of Durham themselves and have moved into houses there. So, I can't condone what you're saying, that it's just those people from outside of the community that are moving in there.
Well, I don't know how the rest of us get to be heard and validated for what we're believing in. A non-dense area is what we moved into. We chose that. So just arbitrarily change that for one person? How is that even democratic?
I think if you take a look at the development that happened to the west of this area,
I'm not talking about West. I'm talking about here, right here.
as we're looking at it, you're talking about the community and this area. And I take a look that, 4 lots to the west is pretty intensified there. I believe there are blocks of 8 townhouses in that development. Looking at it, has it, been a terrible detriment to the community? No. But I've probably gone way beyond where I should be in this public meeting in the debate back and forth with you on this, but you've been heard. We've got to take that into consideration. This wouldn't be passed if out of opinions and professional opinions are taken into account and accepted.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? I'll ask again, is there anyone online? Ashley? No? Very good. Then I will move on. How does the committee want to look at this? Any comments? There is a recommendation that is there for this application. Staff is recommending. Somebody want to move or the recommendation, or we've got to move something? Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
I'd like to move the recommendation as outlined by our planner.
Thank you. I have a seconder. Councillor Townsend. Member Townsend, not meaning as council here, making as a committee. Okay. Any comments, questions? Jeffrey, Member Shea.
Yeah, a couple of just real quick questions to the our planner. When you talked about grading and things like that, I was sort of picturing the houses to the two sides and other buildings nearby and how they could be affected by water flow and everything. I hadn't really thought about what I was assumed was a sort of a vacant lot south of the property. Do we concern ourselves with the water flow to the south?
Yes. But when we take a look at the requirements, the requirement is not that you can't move water from one property to the next, but that and the test is the adverse, not that there's an impact, but that there's an adverse impact. That is a higher level of just impact. Number two, we certainly, and Carl's mentioned this already, take into consideration with all builders on certain size lots, the requirement to provide the lot grading plan and so that they make sure that where water movement's going to go and how they deal with that water movement. Obviously, on a property that's flatter, we have a different set of circumstances than on a property that slopes one way or the other. And therefore I would say that level of scrutiny or concern rises with that. Okay. To say that there was going to be no water movement off this property? No, we're not going to say that. How we control that is to be seen together with the property owner, together with, as Carl mentioned, the engineer and the lot grading and what their proposal is for that. And that requires sign off by CBO or by the deputy CBO in terms of that approval going forward.
That happens at building permit stage?
We ask on the front end to see whether or not there's a reasonable chance of being able to do something proper. And they did provide that. We don't go forward and say, oh, we're going to wait till at that stage. Because if we think it's not possible to do it all, we want to know that before we get to a zoning stage, if you put it that way. So we do ask in a lot of cases, not all of them, to see what their plans are. And in this particular case, they have provided that a generalized initial plan that was looks like it's acceptable, but needs, I won't say refinement or more detail when we get to the building permit stage.
Great. And you mentioned that this is designated as a primary settlement area in the County of Grey official plan. Isn't this governed under the West Grey official plan?
Both plans were reviewed. You're one within the other, right? It's like a nesting cup. You're always under the County of Grey official plan.
And finally, so this proposal is to change it from R1B low density to R2 medium density. Why would it have been designated as R1B low density initially? Somebody at some point decided this should be a low density property, and we're being asked to redesignate it as a medium density property. Has the logic changed? You look like I'm not being very clear in my.
No, I think I got you. Our bylaw is old. It's older than me. No, not quite, but it's old. Okay. And it was not uncommon to at one time to have firmly differentiated between single family houses and semi-detached. And in fact, our bylaw does that. That has gone by the wayside over the last 5, 8 years kind of thing, where the county EOP and other documents, it says, no, you can't differentiate between the single detached and the single family anymore. Your poverty zoning is what you're doing. You are shaming people to say that, oh, only single detached houses can be side by side of each other. And no, the province has said no. The county has said no. Your bylaw is just out of date in that regard. And your next iteration, the zones are going to have single detached and semi-detached in the same zones. There may be slight differences in the lot areas, but they'll be in the same zone.
Joyce, Councillor Net.
Thank you. Just for clarification and looking at the GIS mapping, there's currently a house on this property? Oh, there isn't.
No, it was
Oh.
removed. It was removed last fall.
Oh, okay. It's just not updated then. That was my
Correct.
question. I thought like, is it being removed to put the duplex up? And if so, or if it was going to stay. So I just need that clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Doug,
Yeah, a couple questions for the planner, or maybe Carl. Looking at some of the drawings, at the back of this property, and we're looking at the grading and the runoff again. It looks like maybe there's a cement retaining wall or something that maybe is going to be erected. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the finished product isn't what the neighbors are seeing today. It's probably a safe assumption.
Well, that definitely saves up. The preliminary, like I said, we did ask for some idea. They included a retaining wall as you're seeing on there as a proposal. Whether or not the elevations are going to be exactly
Yeah.
the same, whether or not it's required,
Yeah.
it will be determined as they move forward. But they're looking at that at the moment as a one of the potential ways to deal with the adverse impact on the abutting property.
Yeah, so what the neighbors are seeing today is not in likelihood going to be the finished product.
No, I would say no. I would also not hesitate to guess is that new owners of a property in some respects watching their property erode away into somewhere else, will try to put some grass seed down,
Yep.
whether or not they come back with trees to stabilize. But there's certainly a concern like that, I think, with ourselves as property owners.
Yep. And another question too, and again, looking at just one of the drawings that shows the grading and stuff, but it shows the placement of the house. And I know from watching the YouTube on the last meeting, one of the concerns was parking. Is there any way the house can be moved back? Or is there going to be enough parking to alleviate on-street parking?
Yeah, we took a look at, so the house and the zoning is a standard R2 for semi-detached. It meets the requirements of the bylaw. Our bylaw requirements for semi-detached is 2, or is it just a 1 parking spot? I think it's 2. We believe it's 2. Their initial drawings show a garage for 1 and then the driveway for 2, okay? We also took a look at the setback between that and the road itself, and there's probably enough room for another car in the driveway. I'm not going to say that car doesn't overhang the quote unquote property line, but we also have not a median, but the boulevard through there too. So, yeah, there's probably room for 3. The way we're seeing with our children and some other things like that you can drive by houses that have 4 cars, 5 cars, and we've had this discussion in the past about that. To say, but we don't regulate it at the moment. Durham Street East does not have a no parking zone. It's not applicable to the sides kind of thing within that. But we figure there's probably room for a good 2.5 to 3 cars within the driveway itself, and with the one in the house.
any other comments, discussion? We have a recommendation duly moved and seconded on the floor. Nothing else. Questions on the motion? I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Very good. Okay. We'll move on to our next one. Which is number 4. Public meeting on zoning application ZA 04 2025 3822 67 concession 4 north of the Durham Road. Declare this public meeting open. And Ashley, do you have any comments on how people can join in, please? Ms. Noble?
Members of the public joining virtually wishing to participate in this portion of the meeting may do so in one of two ways. If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Gray Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. I'd like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect to the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Gray Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of West Gray Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into the decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after the holding of a public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw. And the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. Thank you. And some provisionary comments from the clerk.
Notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located at the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to the Director of Legislative Services clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Gray on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Gray, care of the Director of Legislative Services clerk.
Thank you, Michelle. And overview from the Planning Department. Development. David?
Mr. Mayor, Council file Z04 2025 from Heffling. Purpose of the zoning amendment application is to amend the zoning to recognize an existing 54 square meter accessory detached dwelling located within 7 meters of the primary dwelling on the lot. A letter of understanding between West Gray and the property owner in February of 2022 permitted the owners to keep and occupy a dwelling on the lot while the new dwelling was being constructed, provided the old dwelling was removed upon occupancy of the new. With the recent changes to the provincial planning statement, the owners now wish to keep both dwellings. The ADD, accessory detached dwelling, would either require its own septic system or be connected to the existing septic. The 8554 zone proposed would prohibit the creation of a third home or apartment on the property, and the natural environment zone on the lot is to be modified to match the County of Gray official plan hazard mapping. Ask Ashley if you can bring up page 26 of the PDF, please. Shown on the screen in the council chambers and online is the proposed zoning schedule itself. The 545 zone is at the front end of the property, if I can call it that, on the concession road. The remainder of this property is all in the natural environment, although it's, the zoning is being modified to match up with the County of Gray, official plan for hazard and comments from the Conservation Authority. And can I ask you to go to the next page too, please, page 27? This is the quote unquote site plan that was provided. It's more than enough for our use. It does provide the dwellings on the property and some numbers. The red square is the accessory detached dwelling, as I'm mentioning, and its relationship to the existing house on the property. There's setbacks that were provided on the drawing also to give you an idea of what we're talking about. When you go to look at the aerial photo of this property, you cannot see that red building at all, but it is there. It's been there for a number of years. We circulated the applications internally into a number of agencies, including West Gray Public Works, West Gray Building, West Gray Fire. There's no concerns from West Gray Works or Fire. Building has no concerns, although again, they mentioned that a new septic system will be required for the existing house, or the owner will need to show documentation that the existing septic system can serve both the new and the old house in this particular case. County of Gray, staff's opinion of the potential impact on natural heritage is negligible. Requirements for an EIS is not required. Staff recommended any native tree that is 10 centimeters in breast diameter or larger be that's being removed be compensated. The house is already there. We don't see any more trees that are coming out in this particular case. Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority find the application acceptable. There have been no comments received as of writing the report. We did receive comments, but it was in relationship to other possible enforcement issues on the property that we'll refer to the clerk for discussion or comment. The background, the terms, I use the terms, accessory detached dwelling and additional residential unit, okay, are used interchangeably in planning, but there is a differentiation between the uses and the terms. The ARU is used to refer to residential units permitted under the Planning Act on lots that have access to or connection to municipal water and municipal sewer systems. In West Gray, that applies only within Durham and Newstead. An ARU can be an apartment within an existing dwelling or a separate standalone dwelling. The accessory detached dwelling, the term I'm using here, is used to refer to those residential units that would not have access to or connection to municipal water and municipal sewer. In West Gray, of course, it applies to all lands outside of Durham and Newstead. An ADD can also be an apartment within an existing residential dwelling or a separate standalone dwelling. In this particular case, we reviewed the application versus the provincial planning statement 2024. We looked at the properties designated rural and hazard with an aggregate resource area constraint and significant valley lands constraint on the property. There's no development within that hazard. The part of the lot that's the existing house and houses are in is within the rural designation. There's no overall issues within that. Policy 261 of the PPS allows for residential development in the rural area where site conditions are suitable for sewage and water services. And again, building department is looking at the septic system on this particular property. Policy 415, natural heritage issues. Again, we're well outside those areas, and the Gray County Planning Ecologist says no issues on that. Mineral aggregate resources also apply to the property, but the defined aggregate resource on this property is 0.17 hectares in size and has no bearing whatsoever on overall on the property, but it's something we have to take a look at. Natural heritage issue, hazard lands on the property. The lot is all pretty much within the Saugeen Valley approximate screening area, but all the dwellings are located outside of that. Overall, we do find that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement. County of Gray official plan, again, the land is designated rural and hazard. The development is all within the rural area. Section 425 of the Gray official plan doesn't allow for additional residential units, supportive of units on residential properties within the existing building and farm cluster. Here, within 7 meters of the existing house, the idea is that we don't put a new or second dwelling on a property such that somebody decides to come forward and sever it off in the future. When they're this close, the ability to sever them off is pretty much non-existent. So that's why they ask for them to be close together. It has to meet the minimum distance separation requirements, and that in this particular case we do. The size is to be limited. In this particular case, it's limited to the existing size of the building at 54 square meters. and again, located in close proximity. Overall, the application is consistent and maintains the general intent and purpose of the Gray AOP. The municipality Gray, West Gray zoning bylaw 37206, we are proposing to change the zoning to a A2545 rural exception to permit the accessory detached dwelling with a definition with a maximum floor area of 54 square meters to be located within 7 meters of the existing residential dwelling as existed on April 15th of 2025, and to prohibit an accessory detached dwelling within the other parts of the residential development. The natural environment, as I mentioned already, is to be modified to match the County of Gray official plan. And overall, I am of the opinion the zoning amendment as proposed represents good planning. I recommend that the municipality of West Gray Council consider the passage of the zoning amendment as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I'll go for, is there anyone that would comment on the applicant or agent? Seeing no one then we'll open it for public comments. Is there any? Yeah, that's what I did ask. I was kind of thinking, okay, well, he's going to sit back there and be quiet, but go ahead. Just your name for the
I'm
record.
Scott Hafling.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, councillors, West Gray staff, and public participants. We wish to keep the dwelling at 382267, Concession 4, Hanover. Our daughter and our fiance are hoping for affordable independent home while they work towards potentially buying a property they own someday. They have student debts to pay off as well as pay down and the other loans and then saving for mortgage. In the economic uncertainty of today, combined with the high cost of housing, this will provide them a chance to save their purchase of their own home. They are both employed in the area and would like to make Gray County their permanent home. The proposal displays respect for the community, and both residential dwellings will be well maintained. It will not impact surrounding properties. Both dwellings are set back from the road and they are hard to see. As housing prices continue to skyrocket, we hope the families are encouraged, helped out each other, both younger and older generations in West Gray. We urge you to carefully consider this amendment and approve it. We're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, if you can just sign that paper. That's it for the agent or applicant. Anyone comments from the public? Anyone online, Ashley? No? Okay. Any further comments from committee? How does committee want to deal with this? There is a recommendation there to approve. Staff? Doug, you want to move that?
I will move the recommendation in the report. Thank you.
Okay. Moved by Member Townsend and seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchison. Got your hand up? Okay, thanks, Tom. Got that? Any other comments or questions? On the motion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, I'll declare that carried. Thank you very much. Very good. Great, Scott. We're on to number, that's the third one today. Number 5 on our agenda is zoning amendment ZA 08/2025, a housekeeping bylaw on Mount Forest Business Park, better known as Randhard Business Development Area. Had to get that one in there, David. Thank you. I have some statements that will be read in. But before I do that, Ashley, do you want to give anybody that's online an update on how they can join in if they are there, please?
If you have joined via phone, press star 9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, star 9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking either the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Grey Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you, Ashley. Some of my announcements. From the chair, I would like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at the West Grey Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of West Grey Council. An explanation of how the public or agency comments factored into this decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Were changes made in the proposed bylaw after holding of the public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw, and the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. And Madam Clerk, Acting Clerk, Michelle, you have some comments.
I do. Notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign in the sign-in sheet located at the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to the Director of Legislative Services clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services clerk.
Thank you, Michelle. And with that, we'll go to an overview from the Planning Department. David.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council files ZA 08-2025, housekeeping for the Randhar Business Park, sponsored by the Municipality of West Grey. I ask Ashley if you could bring up page 38 in the PDF, please. Shown online, the council chambers and on the internet is the area subject to the zoning amendment, which is the M1451 zone in the West Grey zoning bylaw. Excuse me. There are 3 lots in this particular location: 114 North Park, 118 North Park, and 122 North Park. And the purpose of the housekeeping is to modify the M1451's industrial exemption zone to 1, reduce the front yard minimum setback from 15 meters to 10, and 2, replace the existing landscaped open space minimum 10% with a new front yard landscaped area minimum 70%. Council may remember this property. We recently did a correction to a call it a typo within the bylaw for the 451 zone in terms of maximum building height. Probably should have taken a look at a couple other things at the same time. So we're back. The lands are designated industrial business park settlement area in the County of Grey official plan. This is obviously well outside of Durham and Neustadt and only covered by the county official plan. Rear portions of the lots are within the Saugeen Valley regulated area. And oh, by the way, the lots are within the MTO corridor control area, which at times has an interesting impact on building and development because they also need permits from the province for properties in this particular area. As I mentioned, we've had previous applications and reports on this. The links are within the report provided to the committee council. Circulated application to West Grey Public Works, Building and Fire, no concerns. County of Grey, no concern. No comments received as of April 1st. Saugeen Valley, and we also received no comments as of April 1st, but they also did comment on the previous maximum height, and they have no concerns overall in terms of, you know, the proposed changes to the bylaw has no impact on any regulated area. And again, no comments received yet from MTO. No comments received from the public as the writing report or since then. Review the application versus the provincial planning statement, the County of Gray official plan. And overall, there's no particular issues with that. In terms of the West Gray zoning bylaw, that's really where the rubber hits the road. Again, zone M1451, and the table provided in your report goes through the current regulation requirements and the proposed. So no changes to lot area maximum or frontage. The front yard minimum setback will be reduced from 15 to 10. That's actually consistent with one of the properties already developed on North Park. Within that, interior side yard remain the same, rear yard remain the same, lot coverage the same, building height the same. Minimum landscape open space is going from 10% to 0%, but we are replacing the landscape with a minimum landscaped area front yard, which currently doesn't exist, to 70%. What's been happening is that we've been getting proposals where the entire front yard has been paved over. No grass whatsoever proposed. So here what we're going to have at the end of the day is we will allow 30% of the lot frontage to be your entranceway into a property. And then we're going to require the rest of it to be grassed, landscaped, or whatever it is for the front yard. We're not losing actually any minimum landscaped open space on the properties because in general, at the moment, all of these properties require septic systems. And since they require septic systems, they require green space for septic systems. So we are still retaining green space, but in a slightly different kind of concept. And that's because of the requirement for the septic systems. If you had it as, if we had full municipal services, maybe a different story, but we're nowhere close to talking about municipal services here at all. So I'm getting the green space in a different sort of way versus by using the requirement for septic systems on that. And wells. This is a fully private area for development. So within that. Again, overall, the only thing we're doing is reducing the front yard setback from 15 to 10. Public Works has no particular issues with that. There's still sufficient land between the right of way and the buildings in order to do their work, including ditches for stormwater or whatever else would be required. And again, the landscaped front yard will give us some of that to reduce the possibility of full pavement across the front yards. It only applies to the 451 because you take a look at a number of other businesses back on North Park and others. Obviously, the entire lot is graded with equipment sitting on it all the way up to our road allowances. This only applies to those 3 lots there at the moment. We will take a look at the Rand Har Business Park. That doesn't roll off the tongue at all, by the way, at all. In the future, in terms of how we go forward, obviously lots that are currently developed, not a big issue overall. Newer lots where we take a look at some of these provisions. And we did talk about stormwater earlier today in regards to the whole Rand Har Business Park in that regard. Overall, I do find that the zoning amendment as I recommended to you represents good planning. I would recommend that the Municipality of West Gray Council consider passage of the zoning bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Good overview. Is there any comments from the applicant? I don't see. I'll turn to Ashley. Is there anybody?
We're actually the applicant, sir. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just going to see, whether there was any more comments. Comments from anyone from the public? Ashley, is there anybody online? And I'll get to you if you want to approach. There's nobody? Good, sir. You can give your name and residency. That would be great. Nope, push that. There you go.
I'm
Thank you,
Red.
Red.
My name is Greg Ford. I'm the owner at 118 North Park. I'm here today for a point of clarification. Our building is built. We have an approved site plan to do an interesting landscape feature in the front. And I just want to know, how does this affect me? Because we have everything, all the approvals in place.
And I'm going to give you a very political answer. Staff? I'm going to ask David to answer that, how that will affect you.
Existing approvals that are signed are existing approvals that are signed. Okay, modifications to those, we take a look at landscaped and buildings in terms of legal non-conforming or legal non-complying when they were built. So if we had a building, for example, obviously it was built at 8 meters from a property line that now requires 10. Obviously, there's no changes with that. If you have approved drawings to build to that, then you have approved drawings to build to that. Okay?
So
Any changes to that, as you pointed out, you are subject to site plan. Okay, both from MTO and from the municipality of West Gray. We'll be taking a look at that in terms of how your building sits in regards to the bylaw.
I should be more clear. Our site plan just got approved by West Gray about a month ago. And I can't guarantee I have 70% open space. I might have 63. I don't know. But do I have to change it because it's already approved by West Gray?
As I said, no, you haven't approved. Okay,
Would that be called legal non-conforming then?
It's a little bit of a gray area within that because it's not obviously built. Okay, but the approvals would suggest that you were given approval to build X, and that's what you were given.
Will that be put in writing?
You've said you have a signed agreement.
Will that be put in writing though, that I don't have to adopt the 70%?
As I mentioned, you have a signed agreement, and that's the agreement between yourself and
That's a
West
very
Gray.
political non-answer. Maybe the mayor can tell me, will that be put in writing? I do.
And that's all there. It's in writing now. That's in the record. Thank you. That approval is in writing. There it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It would be just duplication at this point in time. So you've got it.
Again,
And it's before this come in. So it's not legal, non-conforming. It's legal at the time with the bylaws that we had and the regulations. So,
thank you for that non-answer. I just came here for clarification.
yeah, okay. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Anyone else? If we will have anybody. Then we're down. Does the committee have any questions before I ask for? No, we have not. Do we have a mover for the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hutchison, Doug, and Member Forrester. Scott. Any questions on the recommendation? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Tom. Very good. Brings us down to the last zoning amendment today. And I'll declare that the public meeting is open for ZA 09-2025, 31, 32, 37 Highway 6. And so we are open for this one. Ashley, you can give anybody out there that is joining online an opportunity to understand how to join in.
If you have joined via phone, press *9 to raise your hand. This will let us know that you would like to speak. Alternatively, *9 can also be used to lower your hand. If you have joined virtually, you can either raise your hand by clicking into the blue or yellow hand icon located in the bottom corner of your screen, or by sending a chat message to West Gray Communications, either stating that you would like to speak or what you would like read into the record on your behalf.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. I have a few announcements from this chair. I would like to remind everyone that the purpose of this public meeting is to receive input from the public. Every person who attends a statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act shall be given an opportunity to make representation in respect of the proposed bylaw. All submission materials for this application are available at West Gray Municipal Office during regular business hours. This meeting is an essential part of the decision-making process. Feedback received will be considered in the decision of West Gray Council. An explanation of how the public and agency comments factored into the decision will be included in the notice of passing of the bylaw. Where changes made in the proposed bylaw after holding a public meeting, council will determine if any further notice will be given respecting the proposed bylaw. And the determination of council as to the giving of further notice is final and not subject to review in any court, no matter the extent of the change made in the proposed bylaw. And I'm going to turn to Deputy Clerk, Ms. Harris. Your comments, please.
Thank you. Notice of this public meeting was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to provide verbal comments at this public meeting is asked to sign the sign-in sheet located at the podium. The personal information collected at this public meeting is collected under the authority of the Planning Act. The information collected will be used to complete the zoning bylaw amendment process and will form part of the public record. Questions about this collection should be addressed to the Director of Legislative Services Clerk. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Municipality of West Grey, care of the Director of Legislative Services Clerk.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn to David. Planner Smith, give us an update and overview.
Mr. Mayor, Council files ZA 09 2025 Kit Firm, planning consultant represented by Quest Planning. The purpose of the application is to zone approximately 3 hectares of land that will be merged with the Kipfer property and to zone approximately 17.4 hectares of land that is to be retained by Metcalf. And Ashley, if you could bring up page 48, the PDF, please. Shown on screen in the council chambers and online is the draft zoning schedule. The Metcalf property, which is being severed. It's got the 2 zones on it. We have the, excuse me. We have an R1A 544 at the far east end that is going to be merged with the Kipfer property. I'll show you that in a second. With the retained property, the A2 543 being the remainder of the agricultural lands being kept by Mr. Metcalf. We go to page 50. On page 50, the blue outline is the Metcalf property. And then the lighter blue line at the corner of over on Marshall Heights is Mr. Kipfer's property. And that's what's being added onto, which is why when we go back to the zoning, you'll see that the zoning lines would match up. Although the back end of this property, the part that we're zoning, will have different zoning than Mr. Kipfer's current property, and we'll get to that in a minute. The zoning is required to fulfill a condition of approved provisional consent that was heard by the Municipality of West Grey Committee of Adjustment earlier this year. Metcalf lot is on Highway 6 with frontage on the Highway 6. Kipfer lot is 150 Marshall Heights with frontage onto Marshall Heights. The Metcalf lot is designated rural land use and hazard in the County of Grey official plan. There are significant woodlands and aggregate resource areas constraints on the property. As the retained Metcalf lot will be less than 20 hectares in size and necessitates relief from the lot area minimum requirement of the West Grey zoning bylaw. The approximate 3 hectares of land is being added to the Kipfer lot will have a prohibition on the construction of buildings and structures due to the significant woodlands on the lands. The natural environment zoning is also being modified to match the County of Grey official plan hazard designation. Previous report is the Committee of Adjustment Report B30 2024 for the consent. We circulated the applications to West Grey Public Works Building and Fire with no concerns. The County of Grey comments from January 17th of 2025. The revised proposal contemplates a minor lot addition outside of lands identified as an aggregate resource area. Potential impact to natural heritage is negligible. EIS is not required. The lot within the existing plan of subdivision 150 Marshall Heights be identified as the building envelope to ensure that any future development occurs on the benefiting parcel within the subdivision. What their comments are is that they do not want to see the significant woodlands, the part that's being added, being used as part of the development land. There's plenty of land within the Marshall Heights subdivision parcel, the existing one for development. It's always been that way. When the Marshall Heights subdivision development was done, all those lots, as you can see on Marshall Heights, are more than satisfactory in size for a building, accessory building, septic system, well, amenity area So the additional lands are not required to fulfill any of those requirements. And though I don't necessarily agree with the county of Gray very often in terms of their significant woodlands, in this particular case, we do see the benefit of putting a restriction on the back end in terms of, yes, it's part of the lot, enjoy it for its natural beauty and all the rest of it, but not as a building lot, as part of the building envelope. We received no comments from the public as they're dated regarding the report or since the report was uploaded. Reviewed the application versus the provincial planning statement, the County of Gray official plan, and in terms of the West Gray zoning bylaw 372006. As I mentioned, the retained Metcalf lot will be less than the 20 hectares is required. It'll be 17.4. We don't see any major issues with the smaller lot area, considering we took a look at the consent and those policies already. The zoning on the retained Metcalf will be a 2543 to recognize that reduced lot area. And again, the national environment will be slightly modified to take into consideration the current mapping. The lands being added to the Kipfer lot will be zone R1A 544, unserviced residential. As noted in the Gray OP review, it is recommended that a prohibition be placed on the construction of buildings and structures on the significant woodlands portion of the lot addition only. This will have no impact on building on the original lot in the subdivision. In general, I've not been recommending zoning, as I said, or other restrictions on properties that have significant woodlands. In this case, the lands being added are not required for development purposes. The R1544 unserviced residential exception zone will still allow this portion of the large lot to be used for personal recreation. The prohibition is only on the construction of buildings. Overall, I'm of the opinion that the zoning amendment as proposed represents good planning. Recommended the Municipality West Gray Council approve the zoning bylaws proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. At this time, I'll open it up. Is there any comments from the applicant? No? Okay. I'll just, there's nothing from the applicant. Comments from the public.
Sorry, yes.
Yep.
Thank you for the opportunity. I am Yanni Brewer from Cresta Planning. I just wanted to note that we did go through the staff report and we don't have anything to add. We do concur with staff's recommendation. But yeah, I think I may need to address more if there's public comments. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, is there anybody online would like a comment? I don't see anybody in the chambers who wants to make a comment. We've pretty much depleted that source today. Okay. If there's no comments from the committee, there is a recommendation there. We're down to that point of making a decision on this. Do I have anybody that would like to move the recommendation as presented? I see Deputy Mayor Tom, Member Hutchison there, and Councillor Noon, Member Joyce. Okay. The recommendation's been moved, seconded to accept it, accept the staff recommendation. Any questions on the recommendation? On the motion as presented? Then I shall call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Declare that carried. Very good. And if I'm not mistaken, that is all that we have on today's agenda. Everything completed on the agenda. I will state the meeting adjourned.